I said Deshaun's better. Speculation, which I find kind of funny.
Todd Monken just got put on the spot in front of every Browns reporter in the building, and he did not hold back. Shedeur Sanders lost his first-team reps on Saturday, and by Sunday morning, the entire Browns media was running 5 different stories about why. One report said it was Deshaun Watson's interceptions. Another said Jimmy Haslam made the call from the front office. Monken heard all of it, and today he decided to answer every single rumor himself, live, on camera. Here's exactly what he said and why the story the media told you does not match the one he just gave. Let's start with what actually happened, because that part is not complicated. Shedeur Sanders took the first-team reps in practice on Saturday. That is a fact. What happened after that is where the Browns media completely lost the plot. By Sunday morning, there were reports flying that this was a demotion, that it meant something bigger, that the coaching staff had made a franchise-altering decision about who their starting quarterback is going to be in September. Monken shut that down before he even finished his first sentence on the podium. He explained it plainly. Shedeur took the ones during the walkthrough. While that was happening, members of the staff pulled him aside and told him something simple. Over the last couple of days, they had been looking at the reps distribution, and they felt Shedeur had gotten a few too many with the starters relative to Deshaun, so they were going to flip it. That's it. That's the entire story, coming directly from the man making the decision. Monken made a point of saying he wasn't even at that exact moment when the switch happened. He said his reaction, when told, was basically a shrug. Fine, we'll flip it, and then next week we'll go back the other way. He was blunt about something else, too. He said he sure as hell wasn't planning on walking into a media session to announce he'd changed his mind about anything, because as the head coach, he doesn't have to explain every single practice rep to a room full of reporters looking for a headline. That's an important detail because it tells you how normal this actually was inside the building, even while it was being treated outside the building like a 5-alarm fire. Monken said today, as far as he knows, Shedeur goes with the ones. Tomorrow, it flips to Deshaun. Wednesday, Shedeur is back with the pads on. That's a rotation. That's a coaching staff managing reps in a real competition, not a front office quietly making a decision and letting the head coach clean up the mess in front of cameras. If you were expecting Monken to dodge the question, he did the opposite. He answered it directly, and it wasn't dramatic at all until the reporters in that room decided to make it dramatic anyway.
Shedeur on Saturday took the ones in the walk, so I anticipated him being with the ones. When I walked out, guys grabbed me and said, hey, the last couple days we've been looking at it. Shedeur's got a few more reps with the ones. That's all it was. I wasn't even at the moment. I was like, yeah, sure, we'll flip it, and then next week we'll go the other way. I sure as hell wasn't thinking about coming back in here and telling all you guys that I was going to change my mind, because I really don't have to. And so that's just the way, being the head coach, I can kind of do that. Ultimately, Shedeur's going to go today with the ones. Unless I'm
get dangerous.
I change my mind, and then he won't. Okay? Just like any other player.
Hold on right there, because this is where the story completely falls apart. If Monken's explanation was the only version of events, none of this blows up into a national story. But it wasn't the only version. It was one of at least 4, and none of them line up. Start with the first theory that hit the internet, the idea that this wasn't a coaching decision at all, that it came from ownership, specifically Jimmy Haslam, stepping in and dictating who gets first-team reps. That's a serious accusation if it's true, because it would mean Monken doesn't actually control his own quarterback competition. Monken addressed that one directly too, saying flatly that he wants to just get it out of the way. He's the head coach, and this was his call made with his staff in real time based on rep distribution, not a directive handed down from the ownership suite. Then there's the version that came from Tony Grossi, who reported that his understanding was the coaching staff had grown perplexed with Deshaun Watson's interceptions in practice, and that concern was significant enough that they needed to get a longer look at him with the starters. That's a completely different explanation than the one Monken gave. One version says this was a routine reps adjustment based on volume. The other says it was a performance-based reaction to Watson struggling. Both cannot be true at the same time, and Monken never once mentioned interceptions interceptions as a factor. On top of that, you had a team spokesperson floating the idea that this was about certain formations, not a broad shift at all. And you had Mary Kay Cabot reporting a completely separate timeline, suggesting Deshaun was scheduled to get his day with the ones on Thursday, not Saturday. So now you've got a rep swap explained 4 different ways by 4 different sources, and the only person with actual authority over the decision is the one giving the most boring, least dramatic version of the story. That should tell you something about which version to trust, and it's not the ones designed to go viral.
Yeah, so this confirms Jimmy Haslam made the call. Let's just get it out the way, right? The fact that, I want you to know, if it was just this coming out, and we believe Monken, I believe Monken. Hey, the people, whoever the people are, I guess the coaches pulled him aside and said, look, Deshaun, he's been getting a lot of practice in shorts with the ones, not a lot of padded practice with the ones. They said Shedeur got too many 1 reps. I don't know how I feel about that. But Tony Grossi, everybody's favorite liar in the Browns media, comes out and says, from what he understands, the Browns were perplexed about Deshaun Watson's interceptions. I'm not going to let you hear that. You ain't going to hear none of that.
So which version do you actually believe? The coach who made the call or the anonymous sources who weren't in the room? Now here's the moment that really tells you how tense this press conference actually got, because a reporter tried to walk Monken into a trap, and he saw it coming from a mile away. Earlier in the session, Monken had talked generally about improvement across the quarterback room, saying all of them, Watson included, had gotten better since camp started. A reporter came back to that point later and tried to reframe it, asking if Monken had specifically said Watson was better than Shedeur. Monken stopped him cold. He asked the reporter to clarify what exactly he meant, better camp or better than Shedeur, period. When the reporter tried to pin him down, Monken said he didn't think he'd gone that far, and he added, almost laughing, that he appreciated the attempt to trap him on live television, but it wasn't going to work. That single exchange is more revealing than almost anything else from the session, because it shows you exactly what Monken is dealing with. Every word he says about either quarterback is being parsed, twisted, and turned into a headline about a franchise-altering QB decision, even when he's just answering a general question about improvement across an entire quarterback room that includes 2 rookies. He's not being cagey because he has something to hide. He's being cagey because he's watched the media take a routine rep swap and turn it into a national story about ownership interference and quarterback controversy, all inside of 48 hours. And that's really the bigger issue here. It's not that anything sinister happened to Shedeur Sanders on Saturday. It's that the Browns media environment right now is so primed for controversy that a completely normal coaching decision got run through 5 different filters and came out the other side as a conspiracy. Monken isn't fighting Shedeur's competition for him. He's fighting a media cycle that wants drama more than it wants accuracy. And today, for the first time in a while, he decided to push back on that directly instead of just letting it ride.
How much help Deshaun to have been doing this for almost 10 years?
It does, but it's still new for him.
Speaking of
New
Deshaun's
offense,
veteran
new coaching
status,
staff, it's new players. Hasn't really played a lot of football over the last however many years it's been. So there still is improvement there, right? When you haven't done something, even if you've done it relatively well or an elite level like he's done, and then there's a gap there, there's still improvement there. There's still, okay, with his body, right? How do I get that back moving and processing and executing at a high level? So I just think there's still improvement there for him and for all of our quarterbacks.
Hey, Todd,
I knew it.
I'm not sure I understood you. When Mary Kay asked if they're even Steven, and then you mentioned that Deshaun's getting better.
Hold on. What was that?
So that's what I'm asking. Were you
I said Deshaun's better.
Were you saying that he's camp or that he's better than Shedeur? I want to make sure.
Oh, I don't think I threw in there that he's better than Shedeur. I'm not sure I went that far, but I appreciate you trying to trap me in that shit.
Here's the part nobody's talking about, and it's actually the most important thing Monken said all day. Buried near the end of the session, Monken gave the one answer that actually matters more than any single practice rep. He was asked directly whether the plan is still for both quarterbacks to start preseason games, and he confirmed it without hesitation. One of them starts one preseason game, the other starts a different one. That's still the plan heading into this week and next. This is not a team that has quietly decided who its starter is and is
Because
just
after that
waiting to
video
announce
dropped,
it.
guess what else
This
dropped?
is
The
a
NFL
coaching staff
executives
still
ranking
building
him
the
the
sample
worst
size
quarterback in the
before
league.
making a call, which is exactly what a real competitive quarterback battle looks like. That matters because it directly contradicts the loudest theory running through Browns media right now. The idea that Watson is being propped up as the guaranteed starter no matter what, purely because of the money attached to his contract. If that were true, there'd be no reason to give Shedeur a real preseason start at all. You'd hand Watson the reps, the starts, and the headlines and call it a formality. Instead, Monken is on record saying both quarterbacks are getting a real look under real game conditions before preseason wraps up. And that's where Shedeur's actual advantage shows up. Not in headlines, but in consistency. Monken didn't say it directly, but you can read it in how he talked about the quarterback room. Watson has had flashes, strong stretches in OTAs that reportedly tailed off. Shedeur, by contrast, has been the steady one, efficient, proficient, doing his job every single day without needing a signature moment to justify his reps. In a competition this close, with a front office and a fan base watching every practice snap like it's a playoff game, that kind of week-to-week reliability is exactly what tends to win jobs once the games start counting. There's a smaller story buried in this same press conference that deserves attention too. Denzel Boston, the rookie receiver, was confirmed today as the team's ex-receiver, running with the first-team offense. If you've been watching how Shedeur and Boston have connected in camp, there's a real chemistry building there, the kind that could turn into one of the more interesting stories on this offense once the season actually starts, regardless of who ends up under center.
I'm a very dangerous man.
And he gonna make it work. All right. Now a little bit more from Todd Monken on the quarterbacks. I just want to make sure you saw how Todd Monken was snapping at the media. Hey, he ain't playing no games. Some more from the quarterbacks from Todd.
I have not. I anticipate the next couple of days. I'm kind of going through. They're each going to start a game. How do I want that? Does that make sense? Like it's not. They're each going to start a game. We're not. We're still going to go through this week and next week. We're going to have to decide when we practice against the Bills, because then you're not going to just get one practice. You're not going to get one of the quarterbacks at once. You're going to have to rotate those guys a little bit in the preseason practice. And then after those two games, then I think we'll be closer to at least having a better idea. But one's going to start one game, the other one's going to start the other.
So let's put the whole thing together. Because once you strip out the noise, the real story is a lot simpler than 5 conflicting reports made it look. Here's what we actually know, straight from the only person with real authority in this situation. Shedeur lost first-team reps for one day because the staff felt the distribution had gotten lopsided, not because of a front office order, not because of interceptions, not because of some formation quirk. Monken confirmed the rotation continues this week, confirmed both quarterbacks are still scheduled to start separate preseason games, and directly denied ever saying Watson is outright better than Shedeur. Every other version of this story, the Haslam theory, the interceptions theory, the Thursday timeline, came from somewhere other than the man actually making the decisions. And when a reporter tried to bait him into confirming a narrative, he called it out live, in real time, in front of everyone. So here's the real question heading into these preseason games. Is this competition actually as even as Monken keeps insisting? Or is the noise around Shedeur just going to keep getting louder no matter what he does on the field? Drop your take below. Do you trust Monken's version, or do you think there's more to this than he's letting on? Smash like and subscribe.